When
Or
I
no,
heard
I'm
that
sorry,
one,
not better. It's
it's
10x is
easier.
easier than 2x. That's it.
So how is it that 10x is easier than 2x? In other words, how can you do 10 times the stuff and
Mm.
that's easier? What's their logic behind that?
Yeah, well, I mean, the basic idea is that the the logic that you have to go through, the questioning, the person that you have to be to 10x something is not the person that you have to be to 2x.
This business podcast, the Two Business Guys Mastermind, uncovers for you secrets and share tips and tricks to entrepreneurship as they mastermind on how to have startup, operational, and overall business success so that you can go on to get better results. Enjoy. Hey, Rob, we're back and better than ever. We were going to make this live for y'all, but I think Rob overslept, but anyway, we won't talk about that. We were going to make this live and we were going to get into a couple of things that I have. I'm talking about the federal government kind of competing against the Venmo and PayPal's with their Fed Now being able to pay early. Um, Student loans, they're going to be coming due, y'all. So you've been given a loan for years. What did you do with it? We want to jump at a little bit of that. And one that I kind of bubbled to the top for me, Rob, was do we need a business degree? This is something I saw online. It's like, do we even need a business degree now, given what we have in terms of answer engines and LMs, if they like to call them, language models, the chat GPTs, et cetera, et cetera. And then we got a book for you, y'all. What's this book? And this is what we're going to dive into.
10x is better than 2x.
10x is better than 2x. Now, when
Or
I
no,
heard
I'm
that
sorry,
one,
not better. It's
it's
10x is
easier.
easier than 2x. That's it.
So, how is it that 10x is easier than 2x? In other words, how can you do 10 times the stuff and
Mm.
that's easier? What's their logic behind that?
Yeah, well, I mean, the basic idea is that the the logic that you have to go through, the questioning, the person that you have to be to 10x something is not the person that you have to be to 2x. And the argument in the book is a lot of the stuff that will allow you to 2x is what's keeping you from 10xing.
Ah, see, I'm interested in that. Tell me what you guys think. If you like what we've been doing, this content we've been putting out, subscribe, send it to somebody, right? Put notes on it, send it to your Facebook fans and friends and your email list and highlight certain areas that we hit on. But think about what Rob just said there. How is it 10x? Because it focuses you. We've heard this in other ways, haven't we? Go big or go home,
I
right?
know. Yep.
Once you dig into that, you kind of go, what do you mean by that? Well, it takes the same amount of time to do something big as it takes to do something small. We've heard this, but it's about who you become. So I'm curious about that because I've been changing some of my mantras to I am the kind of person that earns X a month. First, it was like, even though I didn't hit it right away, I can see things moving to that point. More business has been coming, more opportunities have been coming. So I said, I might as well 10x that, literally 10x my ask of what I would like to earn per month with the mantra. So I want to unpack that a little bit, Rob, because you are an efficiency person, right? You believe in the
Working
goaling and
smarter, not harder. Yeah.
working smarter, harder. So, and you know the numbers. How can
Hmm.
we get 10x being easier than 2x?
Yeah, no, I think I remember when I first heard it, I was like, that doesn't make sense. I don't know if I agree with that. And then as I read more and more into it and I looked more and more into it, especially the psychology of it, one of the things that stuck out to me the most is that when you're trying to 10x, you have to ask different questions than when you're trying to 2x, right? If you're just trying to double revenues, a lot of the thinking and what they talk about in the book, and this is Benjamin Hardy and Dan Sullivan, what they talk about in the book is the thought processes to 2x don't stretch you, don't push you to really do much more than what you're doing already. it's kind of, it stays in your comfort zone. And it's just,
Hmm.
if you give it time, you'll 2x. But also, it starts to ossify systems that you have in place, which are keeping you at the level that you're at unknowingly, right? And so one of the things that it talks about, like, so for example, they talk heavily about the Pareto principle, and that's the principle many of you all may have heard of, is the 80-20 principle. That 20% of your inputs are responsible for 80% of your outputs. But the flip side of that is 80% of what you're doing is only equating to 20% of your revenues, right? And so you're spending the majority of your time working on stuff that's not really giving you a great return on investment. And what happens is, if all you're trying to do is double, that 80% of your time doesn't come to the forefront. It doesn't come to the surface as easily as if you were asking yourself, what would we have to do in order to 10x what we're doing? What would be necessary? What it does first is it shifts your brain from that's impossible to what would need
What do
to
we have
be
to do?
possible. What do we
Hmm.
need? What will we need to do? What would we be doing? And then what you begin to see immediately is that in order to get there, there's certain things that you can't do. So there's an example they give in the book of their son who's a tennis player. So Ben Hardy has a son who's a tennis player, and the son's goal was to go play college at tennis in college. And when they looked at, okay, if you want to go play college and you want to go play tennis in college, what types of things do you need to do in order to do that? You got to get coaching, you got to get training, you got to get all the rest of that type of stuff. And then they looked at, what would it look like if we were training you to go pro? Well, if we were training you to go pro, you would definitely make it so that you could go to college, because the training that you need to go pro will prepare you to play in college. But the reverse isn't the same. Training to go to college won't necessarily prepare you to go to the pros. And it's the whole concept of, if you shoot for the moon, even if you miss, you land among the stars. And so one of the things that stuck out most to me about the book was this whole concept of the goal that you set requiring different things, right? The 10x goal requiring different things of you, requiring different thinking of you, requiring different skill sets of you, requiring you to do different things. I remember, even for my business, one of the things that was really interesting, when I was talking with my coach, and this is right when we had hit a six-figure run rate for the first time, and this was, in the first year of me being in business, and I could see the writing on the wall. I was thinking, right, to double this was going to be unsustainable, because I was already working 50 hours a week.
Hmm.
And so
Hmm.
to double 50, the amount of money I was making working, I'm like, I can't work 100 hours a week. I got a wife and two kids. Like, that's pointless, right?
See, I'm not going
And
to.
exactly. So it became this limitation. And then my coach was kind of asking me, she was like, so what is the business that you want to run? And what I realized in that moment was, the business that I wanted to run was a 10x business of what I was doing, not a 2x business of what I was doing. Because I wanted to run a business that made enough money, and that I wasn't actually doing a lot of delivery.
Yeah.
I was doing a
Yeah.
lot of connecting, introductions, lunch meetings and golf course meetings and jujitsu meetings and all these different types of things that were connecting people, because that's really where my passion is bringing people together and making things happen, and solving problems, right? But that required a completely different business model. Now, the interesting thing about it is, from that time, and this is maybe 2019, I want to say, we had made in the business a little more than $20,000, and we were on pace for that year to make about $100,000. Now, since that time, we went from making about $20,000 in a year, 20, $25,000 in an 8-month period, to now we have made 20,000, almost $250,000 in a year, to we made $200,000 in a half a year. Right? And we're on pace to move forward. And now I'm even looking to see how we can 10x that to get to $2 million in a year.
Yeah. See, and that's that. I, you know, I always had this problem. Anytime I would cringe when I would hear someone say SMART goals. You used to see me, right? Because Rob and I have done some, some things together in terms of, in classrooms. And I would always like, because they just didn't pull you enough, right? And I guess I was the unreasonable business person in a lot of areas, right? And that's, I don't know, maybe that's obsessive compulsive behavior or whatever it is, right? Or just not being satisfied. But I never liked when I would hear SMART goals, I'm like, you know what? Why are we making people mediocre? Right? Now, this is because in my own self, now get this, y'all, there's a little psychology for you. In my own self, I didn't like that idea. I didn't like that idea of going just enough, being just above, average. I would like to go all in. And I'm telling you, all in wins. And something I was reading this weekend kind of helped codify that a bit. I was reading, I think it was Rory Vaden's rereading Take the Stairs by way of another book he had, right? Because he had a whole bunch of excerpts from it. And he says, forget this balance stuff. Now I'm messing this up. It's not verbatim. He says, forget balance. He says, think like a farmer. He says, during a season of harvest, a farmer works 20 hours a week or 20 hours a day during the season of harvest. But then once he harvests or she harvests, then they could take time and just enjoy what they brought in. And that is my personality. Let's go all in. I believe in immersive businessing. That is all in for a period of time. And I've been really instructing a lot of people that I coach now, literally go all in, just all in, throw everything at it. And then just for 30 days. Because you like to say, hey, man, business is a marathon, not a sprint. And I'm like, well, let's do some sprints, though. Right? Because you may be built to be a sprinter, not the 880 or whatever it is, right? 800-meter guy, person.
Right.
So with that idea, it seems to bring in this concept of go hard, 10x, because you have to ask certain questions of yourself and your business. Who are you becoming? Who do you have to become? And that's Dan Sullivan's big deal, right?
Yeah.
Who, not
Who
how.
do you have to be? Yep. Who do you have to become? But then there's also a piece to it. And I think this is because, I'm always, like I told you, I'm a fan of work smarter, not harder. What 10X does is it gets you out of the realm of what can I do? Because you recognize immediately when you ask yourself that question, I can't do 10 times more work than I'm doing. There's literally not enough time in the day. Right. So then you have to start saying, well, how can I get 10 times more output without having to do 10 times more work?
You have to ask bigger questions.
And that's where who, not how comes into play. That's where all of these kind of best practices in the space come into play, because it forces you in your mind to reach for something that is beyond you. Right. And the book is full of case studies of companies that decided to 10X and literally changed their model. Like, and again, our business model, right? I was the main delivery source for a number of years and moving us up to 200 plus K in revenue. But they know that in order to 10X, that's impossible. If I'm doing 2 million, like there's not enough of me in a day to go around to do that level of delivery. So I have 6 coaches that I'm training right now.
Yeah.
I have other consultants that I'm in conversations with to bring on and to do this work. I'm within now in the next year, we will have a team of 10 extra people that can do the stuff that I was doing, all because we started thinking, how do we get there?
It is so apropos, and I love using that word when I can, to what we're talking about, everyone. Here's an example. This is a real live, I can't give you names or anything like that, but here's a real live example. Coaching client came to me with his partner. Randy, we're losing X amount of dollars per month. It was like $3,000 a month, something like that. And then, of course, I asked him, I said, well, Show me what you're doing in terms of your marketing, et cetera, et cetera. What are you doing to get business? What's your process? And I looked at the process. I said, so, okay, you're bringing in this much doing that. I says, what if you just did one of these 30-day sprints? And I says, just one activity. That's all I wanted you to do. Because they couldn't justify the ads they were spending. They couldn't justify the social media spend because it wasn't equal in dollars. So I went back to a little old school stuff, right? That works, direct marketing. It was a whole different approach. And they were like, really? And I says, now it's going to do multiple things for you. You're going to be in the neighborhood. And I don't want to get too much into the business, but in that you're going to be doing a simple thing that's going to cost you maybe $100, right? Flyer campaign, tape, little things like that, right? And I got a call or an email, and they were like, oh my God, this campaign, now a 30-day sprint, one thing focused, and their revenue has exploded. Now, of course, what's the good problem they're going to have? Can I fulfill?
Yep. Right.
Now, we built that out before they even began. I said, here's the problem you're going to have. The problem of who to say yes to and who to say no to. Because this works so fast and so well. I said, then you have to do your follow-ups and all that kind of stuff to deepen the relationship and, to sell them more stuff, all that. That was just one. So I says, okay, readjust your spreadsheet and ask bigger questions. And literally, I says, I want you to put a huge salary for yourself and your partner and make the business go get it for you. Mm-hmm. Right? And I'm telling you, I had one person the other day, I says, hey, don't 10X, 100X. And they fell out of the chair. I says, because I saw the activity that they were putting in and it wasn't enough. I says, what would happen if you 100X? I don't know how I would do that. I says, well, you would ask different questions, wouldn't you? Well, yeah. I said, do you think it's impossible? Because I showed them a business that was 100 times earning what they were earning, period. I said, they're doing it. So that tells you that there's a market for it.
Exactly.
And then I told him, I said, listen, and I brought in Dan Sullivan, right? The guy of the book we're kind of breaking out now. I says, Dan says who? I says what first. I don't say how anymore. How is third, maybe even fourth. I'll say what can help me, software, right? I'm going to leave a link to some software that I use personally in my business in the description field. Software, A. Then I ask, so that's my what. Then I ask who. Then I ask how. Maybe even, like I say, that might even be fourth. You know what I mean? But that becomes the very thing that when we're coaching people, they say, they look at you and their eyes get big and they go, how? That means they immediately put it on themselves.
Exactly.
No, it's not a question of how. It's a question of all these other things.
And the cool part too is in looking at 10Xing and 100Xing, one of the things that you start to do is you start to be able to see what are the things that are taking away your time such that they're preventing you from doing more of the things. Right. One of the things in running a business, you're going to have clients. And I remember this happened for us. One of the things, and it happened. So 2 years ago, we decided to focus in, stop doing all the things and focus on the most important things. Because what we started realizing was there were certain contracts where in 2 months of the year, we were making as much as we were making on other contracts for 12 months of the year.
Yeah.
And so we were like, let's stop doing those contracts and do more of these contracts. Yeah. And it created this dynamic that had me have to ask a bunch of different questions, had me have to figure out a bunch of different things. And now we're doing a completely different business largely than we were doing before. And like I said, it doesn't mean that we can't do those other things, but it does mean that we can't do those other things in the way that we were doing them. One of the things that I realized, and part of the catalyst for me going and hiring coaches, was there was nothing about that other thing that was going to make the price points on that thing scalable for me to continue doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we wanted to give that service, if we wanted to give that thing, to give that value to the customer, we could give that value, but we had to do it in such a way that it wasn't me doing it, because me doing it was in direct competition to me doing this, which was getting 10x returns on the worst day.
Yeah.
100x
Yeah.
returns is more like it. There are certain things that I'm involved in with clients where it's a six-figure contract, right? You look at a six-figure contract and its fulfillment versus some of the four-figure contracts or three-figure offerings that we have that require my time. It's like, no, we can't do that.
Yeah. It's incredible once you look at. I can usually tell when I'm talking with a client what the problem is. You just have insight and you go, oh, it's usually four things, man. Across the board, it's a math problem. In other words, let me look at your spreadsheet.
Yeah, the
Ask
math ain't
yourself,
math.
is the market going to support that math problem?
Mhm.
Marketing, are you marketing to make the math work? Sales, are you selling? Now, marketing sales different. And then the system. What is the
Yep.
system by which will
Deliver.
contain it
Yeah.
all?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And when I approach it from that framework, let me look at the math spreadsheet. Let me look at your marketing to make the spreadsheet. If the spreadsheet is lying, how does your marketing make it true? You're like, you want to make how much a month? Okay, that's your math. But then, what are you doing to make that? What's out there?
Yep.
Like you said, I'm now adding people that then become the fulfillment. That then becomes the math becomes true.
Yep.
Right. And then that sales piece, lifeblood of any business. We've talked about this a lot. It is. And in fact, in certain areas, we're adding that as a component of teaching. And when people hear sales, they just go nuts, man. They recoil and I can't do sales and all these different things, right? Because they're framing it a certain way. I says, okay, I'll tell you what. How about if you were an affiliate? Oh, I can do that. That's it. Anyway.
Yeah.
So they just
Excuse
have
me.
this approach in thinking, in mental thinking, and I think this is what the whole book is probably going to unfold, is you've got to adjust that. If you just adjust your thinking from 2x to 10x, then certain things kind of pull you toward it.
That's it. It leads you down the pathway automatically.
Everyone, does that sound simple? Think of this. Now you hear Rob and I, two guys masterminding. Yeah, but get this. The biggest part of all of this, Rob and I have kind of gone back and forth on this sometimes, is whether you want to do it. Not if you can, because your math will tell you, oh, I can do that. Like those two guys that I was coaching. I says, okay, are you going to do it? And I would call them up. Hey, tell me about where you're at in the campaign. Oh, we just got the flyers done. Okay. Let me take a look at them. Right. Oh, change this, put this down here. It's too busy. Okay, great. Where are you at? Oh, we did it. In other words, did they do it? Absolutely. Now, did the result happen as a result of that? Yes. Now I'm telling you, they're getting to where they've got too much business. They got to decide now.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And we're just some simple stuff. And I got another painter. Same thing. I says, you should never have to leave a neighborhood. I said, you can make for the whole neighborhood. You do up the street, you go to the whole neighborhood saying, hey, I'm working on such and such house up the street. I'm helping beautify their property, et cetera, et cetera. Would you be interested in?
Mm-hmm.
They're not. Sometimes the neighbors are going to go, well, shoot, if John up the street is doing it, I want it done too, because I don't want to be outstripped by John. That's that fear of missing out. So you should never have to leave a neighborhood. But oftentimes, well, somebody's working on a house and I'll see one sign and I'm like, I don't see no door knocker, right? Nothing. somebody knocking on the doors while you're doing that. So that's one of the little bit of strategies. Just turn it up. Rob, you've got some really interesting things. I remember we were in a little workshop you were doing, and you were asking certain questions, and you said, look, there's just, I think it was 3 or 4 things that increase your revenue.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and then it's simple stuff. I think that's the thing that a lot of people don't pay as much attention to, right? So when you look at price increases, one of the things that we did right off the bat, and one of the first big jumps that we had was we did a 10x in our daily rate. Remember when I did it, I was like,
I just raised my rates.
can I really do that? And then I did it, and then I started selling at that rate, and I was like, oh, I guess I can. And it was interesting because immediately sale was the same. It was actually easier to sell at the higher price point. And one sale at this higher price point was the equivalent of 10
I remember
days of
you talked
sales
about
at the
that.
other price
He's
point.
like, dude, I just
Yeah.
got to hang out with more people like that. Yes.
Yep. So increasing sales or increasing prices is one of those things.
Yeah.
Another one of those things when you're looking at increasing revenues is how can you figure out, or how can you bring somebody on, find out who to figure out for
Yeah.
you how to get done what you're doing in much less of the time, right?
Yeah.
One of the big things that I've been on right now, even in my businesses, is formalizing and processes, and really looking at what I'm doing and how I'm doing it, and how somebody else can get that result. This has been, and this is stuff like, the funny thing to me is this stuff that I already know, stuff that I already teach. But again, it's sometimes it's difficult to apply it in
Your
your
own
own
business.
business, to see it in your
Yes,
own
sir.
space, right?
Y'all
Because
ever heard that before?
I teach leaders how to do, delegation all day long, right? But one of the interesting things for me was breaking the paradigm of the value proposition and what I bring to the table versus what the company brings to the table. And I remember one of the things that was most exciting to me when I was training, I've trained one cohort of coaches. I'm training the second cohort of coaches now. And one of the cool things that happened while I was doing that first cohort training was when I was watching them, I had them doing practical application, and they were, coaching each other and doing things. And when I was watching them get the same level of experience that they normally got with me with each other, I was like, we got it.
Yeah.
Because that part right there was the thing that was most fearful. I was most fearful wouldn't translate, right? That they wouldn't necessarily be able to get, but we were able to distill it out and to teach it in such a way, excuse me, that they're able to get the same results. And more importantly, not only are they able to get the same results, but they feel confident in getting the same results. They're using the stuff, right? One of the things that would happen over the course of our training program is that they would come back and they're like, I use this with my wife, or I use this with a client, or I use this with a friend, or I use this in this situation. But when they would have these stories of utilizing the knowledge and utilizing the skill set, and so they're getting the experience, it's transferable. And now they can give a similar experience as the one that I give to my clients. And so now they can stand in that gap. Now they can do that work, and we can, by the time we get finished with the training, like I said, we'll have basically created, at the very least, if they only work 10 hours a week, we've created another 60 hours of capacity in a week.
That's it. 60. Oh, you just heard it, right? That's the math, y'all. Just added 60 hours of capacity. Therefore, if you look at from 2x to 10x, you just seen the math in action. The math in action doesn't lie to you. I got more capacity, therefore I can earn more money. And that becomes one of the other things. We got price, we got reducing time that it takes to do something. We've got people you sell to. You can increase how much you make by way of that.
Yep.
And then order value. Can I add more stuff to what I sell? This is something I've been talking with just about, I'm almost blue in the face. Now y'all look at me. I'm a brown skinned dude. So being blue in the face, takes a lot. Because I look at the business and I says, well, show me how many more things you're selling after you sell the one thing. That's increasing the order value. And then I say, well, how are you being able to increase that?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right.
And it people don't see it at first because they got, well, this is the kind of business I got. I got a little restaurant business. I do this. I says, well, while you're preparing the food, what else could you be doing? Well, I could be
Or
creating
or
content. Oh, well, let's do
right. Or
that.
before you even get to what else you could be doing, what else does the client need? Because again, the beauty of it is joint ventures and partnerships, things like that. You don't even have to be the one providing it. You just have to be
Uh,
the access point.
there's a one client, they do cleaning, make pretty good money, enough to, feed themselves. And I say, well, how many things do you turn down? Oh, they're always asking us to do this, this, and this, but we don't do that. I says, I understand the focus, but is there someone else that could do it? Well, yeah. I says, we'll be an affiliate for them. Your deal
Go.
flow for them.
There you
So
go.
you don't do it.
It's a revenue stream.
He said, well, don't, then we got to manage them. I says, no, you got to pick the right person to make sure that they fulfill on it. I said, but because you're there, you have an opportunity to see, like you said earlier, Rob, what does the customer, what else do they need or another or want or asking for?
Mm-hmm.
Right. I
Yep.
had this one
Yep.
client, Rob, who had a whole different business.
Mm-hmm.
Her business was like, okay, this is what we're going to do. It's in the name and everything. Come to find out, when she was putting some material out on social media, people kept saying, hey, we want to come there. And it's not what they did.
Mm-hmm.
So she very quickly. So guess what her main business is? That thing that people kept asking for.
Pivot.
It wasn't her model,
Yep.
but she changed it quickly, added some pieces to
Exactly.
the name, and that's what she's
Exactly.
making the bag. Come on,
Right.
y'all. This is
Because you got to pay attention to what the customers want. He's dropping jewels right now. Y'all need to make sure y'all taking notes.
and this is why when we talk about marketing and we talk about constantly having your little salespeople. Now, of course, I'm using software to do this, right? And stuff that I teach on. I got a marketing class coming up, in fact. And this is how I pre-sold it. As I says, if I don't get 30 people sign up, I'm not doing it.
Mhm.
So I did a push, right? And I think, let's see, how did it meet out? It meted out at 27 people, and then 9 signed up. I said, it's not enough. So I did another push before I killed the idea. Next thing I know, people were all over it. So the time I was asking for it earlier and the channels I was using got me 9 signups. Now I got to get 30 for it to make sense. Financially, time-wise, the stuff I got to do, blah, blah, blah. Next thing I know, it exploded, right? Boom, 65 people signed up. And then I think, it was more than half. Not only signed up, 65 people, went on to the landing page, et cetera, et cetera. And then I got my 30 plus. Now I can build the course. Not before. Y'all seeing it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
no, I love it.
and it's
I
and
did
it's
the
and
same
it's
thing.
so I'm kind of going, okay, all right, now I can do it because they showed up. But this is the opportunity that you have when you're always testing the market, constantly pushing things out there, seeing, listening what your customers want or whatever it is, right? And there's all kind of mechanism to find that out. And then putting stuff out there, saying, we can do it. Seeing if everybody goes, I want to come to that one. And then when they say they want to come to that, you go, great, sign up here.
There it is.
And then sign up with some money. That's the pre-sale
Yes,
opportunity.
that's it.
I'm on so many lists to buy stuff, literally, because I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, I want this. And then they leave a little pre-sale. It's coming in October, right? Alex Hormozzi's book. I'm on, bro, because they've demonstrated they're going to deliver. And now they're basically making a call. So his book will go bestseller before it even hits you know what I mean?
Yep.
He'll tease it out a little bit in some videos. And you kind of go, okay, I see what you're doing. Next thing you know, when it opens, that velocity doesn't play. And then more people buy it because they hear about it, et cetera, et cetera.
Mhm.
Right? You see what he's doing now. His whole thing is, hey, he's back to the stuff we've talked about. Free. We one of our videos talked about, can you make money? This is how you make money from free. And people are like, get out of here. Can't make money from free. Yes, you can.
Yeah.
By being able to give away stuff, to do things, go out there testing the market, right? 10x your approach to that. It's right there,
And that's
y'all.
the thing that so many people have to understand is like, as you're going through this work, as you're going through this thought process, it's okay that you can't wrap your mind around how right now, but you got to start asking the appropriate questions before your mind will ever pay attention to the things that'll help you to get to that. Right? There's an interesting thing about how the brain works because the subconscious mind is aware of 2.3 million bits of information per second. Right? Right now, you're probably not thinking about what I'm about to say, but as soon as I say it, you're going to be thinking about that, right? So there's this pad underneath your foot, right? So you got your toes, you got the ball of your feet, you got that right behind the ball of your feet, right? That pad right there, this kind of center of your foot. That if you're sitting down and you're standing up right now, it's contacting the ground, and you've got receptors in your foot right now, and right now, as I'm talking about it, you're starting to be aware of what that feels like in your shoe or on the ground with the carpet or with the linoleum, whatever it is, right? For the whole 40 minutes or whatever we've been talking, you've been unaware of that feeling,
Nah, yeah.
right? But
Uh,
you've been feeling it the entire time because your subconscious mind is capable of taking in those inputs at the rate of 2.3 million bits per second. But the funny thing about it is your conscious mind is only aware of 126 bits per second of all of that information that you're taking in. Right? So we're talking about 2000x from what you're aware of to what's there. And what asking yourself to 10x and the 100x does is it forces your brain to be aware of the opportunities that you are currently not paying attention to. Right. And it activates your reticular activating system by saying that these
see,
opportunities are now important to me. And so then you start seeing more and more and more and more and more of those opportunities.
the RAS. Now we've talked. Now we don't want to woo woo y'all, but we will woo you y'all to think differently. The RAS, reticular activating system, is that thing
Mhm,
that when you got something, you notice more of it out there. It's because now
mhm.
that's where your attention is. So now think about that. Your revenue. I've heard this quote before in a certain way. Maybe not the same way I'm getting ready to say it, but revenue grows where attention goes.
Aha.
Right. I just where your attention goes, your
Mhm,
attention where that goes, that you're attending to comes. So watch
mhm,
what you're attending to. That's TV
mhm.
shows. That's the whole thing. I was telling Linda the other day. I says, I was doing some training. She says, "You were doing some training while you were asleep." I says, "Yes," because I put on a series on YouTube and I just let it. I was watching it, then I fell asleep on it. Then I woke up thinking about it. Because it was in my ear. That becomes the thing. That's because my attention is on this thing. Because I was trying to learn something that was kind of difficult, right? It was a new software and all this. And all in. I just went all in. So I would take my laptop to the bathroom. When I'm using the bathroom, I would have something up about it. I would look at a video. I don't care if the video had 93 views. It might have been an angle, a new approach. And I learned it. And I was learning it to the point where I could then teach it. And once I could teach it, then I got it.
That's the key.
So what y'all doing out there right now? This is just a question. Do you need the two business guys to help you stay accountable? We'll do it. It's going to cost you,
Mhm.
but we'll do it. We'll come and help you stay focused. I got a company that called me up. This is one of those mind things, right? I had talked to this guy, and I can't say the name right now, but I saw him at an event. Hey, what have you been up to? Right? I told him what I've been up to, and he kind of had this look on his face, like, man, I need that. He didn't ask me then. But I knew a little bit about his business, and I says, man, without telling him you need to be 10xing. I says, oh, and you would be perfect. Your business would be perfect, and just left it like that. So he calls me up the other day and says, hey, can we hire you to come in and look at our right? You look at our marketing, look at our so and so. I says, hey, I'll come in, I'll do a scope of work. I said, I won't give you a price. He said, well, what's your price? I said, I won't give you a price. I'll come in and take a look at the scope of work and see if I can even help you. But I'm gonna put some Rob on them. I'm gonna do that. How badly do you need it? Kind of approach.
I
And Rob
love
is
it.
a
I love it.
master at discovering, yeah, how badly do you need this?
Right. What's the value in it to you?
What's the value? And then
Because
what? Real
because it
quick,
doesn't
Rob,
matter how valuable that work is to me until we know how valuable it is to you.
this is a fascinating, y'all. You're gonna enjoy this. This is what Rob does. He asks this. He even does it to me. He'll ask this series of questions, and at first they're just like they're harmless. And you're going, "This did he just do it to me?" Just kind of getting to where you're at, getting to your why. We talked a little bit about that, but then understanding how badly do you want this thing to occur? Some real simple questions. Hey,
Yep.
would that be something that could help you? And he's just building a parameter. I've seen him do it in live, in person, right? When we've talked to people and he's just rocking it, I just let him go with it, right? Because our romance and we'd be talking about something about the sky being blue and wide. And then Rob would come in and says, well, how often or how badly, without saying how badly do you need it, he'll come in and you kind of discover. And
Yep.
would that be benefit? If we could do this, would that be a benefit to you? And the people are going, yeah. So before we're leaving, they're saying, well, when are you going to start? We never
That's
have
the
to
whole deal.
ask. Very rarely do we have to ask for the order
That's the whole
because
deal.
we make it so that
One of
they
my
gotta
mentors said it this way, and I took it to heart. He said, "The prize never chases."
do that.
Right. And so the key thing that to take away from that is in a sales call, your job is not to get them to do what you want them to do. That's easy, right? In a sales call, your job is to get them excited about doing what you want them to do, like it's their idea and they're pitching you to make it happen.
It's
You
good.
want them walking away feeling like you did them a favor by working with them.
Isn't that amazing, y'all? Now that's some 10x thinking. When you ask a big question, how can I, right? Or who can I, or what can I? The answers come. It may come in a
Oh yeah.
podcast like this.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're exactly right. And one of the things that was hardest about learning that for me was you have to be willing to walk away. You have to be willing to accept that it might not be valuable enough for you. And that if, right, we say it this way in my company, we always say, if it's not a hell yeah for you, it's a hell no for us.
See,
Right.
see, Rob knows that hell yeah, because he'll even stuff he's doing. I'll go, bro, it's not a hell yes yet.
Mhm,
What do you mean it's not
mhm,
hell? It's me.
exactly. And then I'm like, oh,
He said,
that's
well,
a
let me
very
tell you a
important
little
point.
bit more
Let
about
me
it.
think about
Okay,
it.
now it's becoming a hell yes.
Right. And normally that's me asking you a couple more questions. But no,
Yep, that's it.
in the situation, it's really important. That's one of the biggest things that I learned in sales and, Alan Weiss and $1 Million Consulting book and value-based pricing and all the rest of this. It's so important that you understand, right? People buy based on their needs, not based on your wants.
Y'all hear that? Say that again.
People buy based on their needs, not based on your wants. And so often we go in and we're paying attention to what we want. I want to get a contract that does this. Right? I was just coaching a guy, and they have the potential to earn millions from just the consulting arm of their business because they are a major player in a different space. But because they're a major player in that space, they have a wealth of knowledge and a wealth of relationships they can lean on that just as an affiliate offering to people that they're doing stuff for already over here, they can do consulting. And it's like, hey, would you like us to help you get to that next stage in your business? And these are 6-figure, 7-figure potential consulting contracts, right? They're helping people to save 7 and 8 and 9 figures, right? But the problem was they were thinking about it from a consulting perspective, and it's like, oh well, I'll charge you. We'll charge you by the hour. We'll charge you. It's like, no, 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 no. Calm down, right? Because first of all, that breaks your brain trying to figure out what's an appropriate pricing strategy for that.
Yeah.
Unnecessary. Instead, what you want to do is you want to go in and you want to figure out what their definition of done looks like. What does good look like? And how valuable is that to them? And most people don't know this. So don't think you're just gonna ask a question, well, how valuable is that to you? And they're gonna be like, you know what? That's worth $50,000 to me. That's not how it works. Most often, people haven't even thought about how valuable it is, because how valuable it is a mixture of how much more money does it bring to you, or how much money does it save you.
Rob, I can't let you go one sentence more without breaking out that. Did y'all hear the gold that was dropped on the floor? If you don't have your satchel and they're picking it up, what does done look like? What was that?
Yeah, what does done look like, and how much is that state of done? How valuable is it to you? How does
Yeah.
it either help you to gain money, help you to save money, or help you to reduce risk?
And there was one more thing. I'm gonna have to rewind this to find it. What does, because sometimes we say stuff and we forget it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what you said something else, and it says, what does something look like? What does something look like? And then what's the value of that?
Mm-hmm. Right. So what does done look like? So what does good look like? But then also,
That's it. What does good look like?
mm-hmm,
And then what's the value of that? So did
mm-hmm,
y'all just get the framework? You're asking, this is what he does to me all the time. You're asking the customer, hey, when will you know you succeeded?
that's
When
it.
will your hands go up? That's done look like. Then well, what does good look like to you? In
Mm-hmm.
other words, when you going to
Yep.
tell me the parameters by which the work is good? Boom. Right?
Mm-hmm.
What does done look
Yep.
like? What does good look like? And then how important is that?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's to
How
get
will it
that
impact
done,
your life?
get that good. Then you're
Yep.
finding out how badly they need it. That's a close structure, y'all. Come
Or
on now.
more
We ain't
important than
teaching
you
sales
finding
today,
it
bro.
out, right? But more important than you finding it out, they're recognizing it
Yes.
and they're
Yes.
seeing it, and it's coming out of their mouth, not
Yes.
yours. So it's
Yes.
their idea. So now when you ask them the question,
Are
so
we done?
if we were able to do that for you, how much would that be worth to you?
And see, I
Now
know where
they
he
have
got
an
that from,
idea
y'all.
of where the numbers are.
That's that Alan Weiss stuff, right? Because
You
I've
are
used that.
100% correct. You are 100% correct.
I've used that whole concept in contrast. Let me know
Hmm.
when we're done. What does it look like? Right. And his structure is so
It's
nice.
amazing. Yep.
If I have a chance, y'all, um, I'll leave a description of the book that you can get to distill that information. And then
Hmm.
I'm creating a site that distills some of the best books. I'm just breaking them out and showing you none of that just summary stuff. I'm going, and here's how you can make money from this.
Exactly.
My initial name right now, y'all, is can this book make you bank? Or this book can make you bank. I don't know. I'm either a question. I'll ask
Or a
it as a
statement.
question or a statement. I haven't decided yet.
I
But that's
love
what
it.
I want you to be able to go look at that book and go, oh, and see the highlight. This is how it can make you bank. I'm gonna break it out. Boom. And then if you want to go further, that's it.
Yep.
So I'm
And
working on it, y'all.
I
It's
love it.
coming.
And the way you break down books is gonna be really powerful. So y'all pay attention to, if y'all want to get on that, you'll put a link in the description to get on
This
the wait
is
list for that.
this is so much fun for me because listen, this is in the age of AI being able to basically tell you everything. But there's a lot of information out there now that the chat GPTs are getting dumber. I just read an article and they're getting dumb. They were
Mhm.
52%. Now they're down to 2%. They're wrong. They got so much input now, parameters, that some of the stuff is garbage. It's just
Mhm.
like Google and the garbage that you sometimes see there.
Yep.
So this is going to be 100% me breaking it down and saying, and this is how you can make bucks from that. This is how you can get to that bank. Anyway, that's all I had, Rod.
I think we dropped it.
I'm just
We
happy,
dropped
man.
enough gems on them today. I feel like it was a heavy episode.
And I'm going to leave you with this quote that I peeled off. Now, typically when I'm listening to an audio, why I don't like listening to audios sometimes because I can't get the notes, but I kept me some 3x5 cars with me, y'all. I was listening to it and walking. I had to stop walking 10 times. I'm walking. But this is what Rory says. And it speaks to what our topic is. Are you 10xing things, right? And are you doing that big? He says double time, part time for full time, free time. And he spoke about it in just the most brilliant terms. He says, like that farmer, they do double time to harvest. They do it for a short time. So that's double time, part time. Then they have time off. So are you out there right now doing double time, part time? Thank you, Rory Vaden. I will call you and, acknowledge you. Double time, part time for full time, free time. It's the sprint that I talk about. Are you going on these big sprints? Are you 10x and what Rob talked about? And the guys over in the book here, right? 10x is easier than 2x. Just saying. If you're not, start. Whatever else you're doing, stop. That's it. We'll talk to you next time.
Have a great one, everybody.